The rookie nurse stood quietly outside room 214, adjusting the stethoscope around her neck while taking a slow breath. It was only her 4th day at the hospital, yet it already felt as though everyone was watching her every move. She had worked tirelessly to earn her nursing license, graduating near the top of her class, believing that compassion and dedication would be enough to help her succeed. Instead, she had discovered that not everyone welcomed a newcomer. A small group of experienced nurses often whispered when she passed by, exchanged amused glances, and assigned her the tasks no one else wanted. She tried not to let it affect her, reminding herself that every new employee had to prove themselves. That morning the ward was unusually busy. Call bells rang from several rooms, doctors hurried through the hall reviewing charts, and stretchers rolled past with new patients arriving from the emergency department. Amid the organized chaos, one of the senior nurses approached her with an unusually friendly smile. "There's a patient in room 214, she said. Retired Navy SEAL. Lost his hearing years ago. He doesn't like nurses bothering him, so be careful. Most people avoid him because he gets angry if you make mistakes." Another coworker joined the conversation, pretending to sound concerned. "If he ignores you, don't take it personally. He's impossible to communicate with." Several others nearby quietly listened, hiding amused expressions while pretending to organize medical supplies. The rookie nurse simply nodded. "Thank you for letting me know. I'll take good care of him." As she collected the patient's medication, another nurse whispered loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear. "Good luck. You're going to need it." Soft laughter followed as she walked away, but she chose not to react. She had promised herself that she would never allow gossip or unkindness to change the way she treated patients. Before reaching the room, she reviewed the patient's chart one final time. His name was Daniel Carter, 62 years old, a retired Navy SEAL recovering from orthopedic surgery after a serious fall. His medical notes clearly indicated that he was deaf and preferred communication through American Sign Language whenever possible. A small smile appeared on her face. Years earlier, her younger brother had been born deaf. Their family had refused to let communication become a barrier, and she had spent years learning American Sign Language until it became as natural to her as spoken English. Even during nursing school she had volunteered at community events serving deaf families because she believed every patient deserved to be understood. She gently knocked on the door before entering. The room was quiet except for the rhythmic sound of a heart monitor. Daniel sat upright near the window reading a thick history book. His posture remained remarkably straight despite his recent surgery, reflecting decades of military discipline. His silver hair was neatly trimmed, and a faded Navy tattoo was visible beneath the sleeve of his hospital gown. Hearing the knock through the slight vibration of the door, he looked up. Instead of speaking immediately, the young nurse smiled warmly. She raised her hands. "Good morning. My name is Emily. I'm your nurse today. How are you feeling?" The words never left her lips. Every sentence flowed naturally through fluent American Sign Language. For a brief moment Daniel simply stared. His eyes widened in complete surprise. The guarded expression he had worn since arriving at the hospital slowly disappeared, replaced by genuine relief. He answered with quick, confident signs. "You know ASL?" She nodded. "My little brother is deaf. We've signed together since I was 8 years old." Daniel leaned back in his chair, visibly relaxing. "That explains your fluency." She laughed softly. "He actually became my toughest teacher." For the first time in several days, Daniel smiled. Outside the room, the group of coworkers quietly gathered near the observation window. One nurse frowned. "Wait." Another leaned closer. "She's signing." The smiles on their faces quickly faded. Inside the room, Emily carefully explained every medication before administering it. She signed each purpose, each dosage, and asked whether Daniel had experienced any pain during the night. He answered every question with ease, clearly appreciating that no written notes or awkward guessing were necessary. Their conversation became natural, respectful, and relaxed. Daniel admitted that many hospitals relied only on written communication, which often left him feeling exhausted and misunderstood. Emily listened attentively. No patient should feel isolated while receiving care, she signed. Daniel nodded with quiet appreciation. That's exactly right. Outside, silence replaced the laughter. The prank that had seemed so amusing only minutes earlier had completely failed. Instead of creating an embarrassing misunderstanding, the rookie nurse had formed an immediate connection with one of the hospital's most challenging patients. The coworkers exchanged uneasy looks, realizing they had badly underestimated the quiet young woman they had hoped to humiliate. The following morning, Emily arrived at the hospital earlier than usual. The events of the previous day lingered in her mind, but she refused to dwell on the uncomfortable behavior of her coworkers. Her focus remained exactly where it had always been, her patients. After changing into fresh navy blue scrubs and reviewing the assignment board, she smiled. She gathered his morning medications, reviewed his overnight reports, and carefully read the notes left by the night nurse. His pain had decreased slightly, his blood pressure remained stable, and the physical therapy team planned to help him walk a longer distance that afternoon. Satisfied with the information, Emily headed toward room 214. Daniel was already awake when she entered. He sat beside the window watching the rain fall outside. The gray morning sky reflected across the glass, making the room unusually peaceful. Emily gently knocked before entering. She immediately greeted him in American Sign Language. "Good morning. Did you sleep well?" Daniel smiled warmly. "Better than I have in several days." She laughed softly. "I'm glad to hear that." After checking his pulse and oxygen level, she explained each medication before handing it to him. Daniel appreciated that she never rushed through explanations. She always made sure he understood every step before continuing. As she adjusted his blanket, Daniel signed another question. "How long have you been a nurse?" "Only a few days." His eyebrows lifted in surprise. "I thought you had years of experience." Emily smiled modestly. "I still have a lot to learn." Daniel studied her for a moment. Skill isn't measured only by experience. Respect matters just as much. His words touched her more than he realized. They continued talking while she updated his chart. Daniel spoke about his military career without boasting. Years earlier he had served in dangerous missions across several parts of the world. During one operation, an explosion permanently damaged his hearing. The injury ended the career he loved, forcing him to rebuild his entire life. "It wasn't losing my hearing that was hardest," he signed calmly. "It was watching people assume I had become less capable." Emily nodded thoughtfully. "I've seen that happen with my brother. Many people mistake silence for weakness." Daniel smiled. "Exactly." He explained that learning to adapt had required years of determination. He returned to school, became an outdoor survival instructor, mentored injured veterans, and encouraged young people facing disabilities to believe in themselves. Emily listened with genuine admiration. "You've helped a lot of people." Daniel shrugged humbly. "I simply refuse to let one difficult day define the rest of my life." Just then, a physical therapist entered the room. Unlike the previous day, communication moved effortlessly because Emily interpreted everything into sign language. She explained each exercise, each safety instruction, and every goal for Daniel's recovery. Together they slowly helped him stand. His first few steps were careful and slightly painful, but he refused to quit. Emily stayed beside him without rushing or showing pity. She simply offered steady support whenever he needed balance. By the end of the session, Daniel had walked farther than expected. The therapist smiled. Excellent progress. Daniel looked toward Emily before signing. Having someone who actually communicates with me makes a huge difference. The therapist nodded in agreement. I can see that. Later that afternoon, a middle-aged couple entered the room. They introduced themselves as Daniel's longtime friends. When they realized Emily communicated fluently in sign language, their faces immediately brightened. One of them signed. We've visited hospitals with Daniel for years. This is the first time we've seen communication this smooth. Emily smiled politely. Everyone deserves to understand what's happening during their care. Daniel's friends thanked her sincerely before sitting beside him. As Emily prepared to leave the room, Daniel stopped her with a gentle wave. I've met many nurses over the years. She turned back. You remind me why this profession deserves so much respect. She felt her cheeks warm slightly. Thank you. That means a great deal. Outside the room, several coworkers watched the interaction from a distance. They noticed the genuine trust Daniel had developed with the rookie nurse and how comfortable he appeared whenever she entered. Even other staff members had begun asking Emily to assist whenever communication with deaf patients became difficult. The same people who had expected her to fail now found themselves quietly observing her success. Without seeking recognition or proving anyone wrong, Emily had earned something far more valuable: the confidence of her patient, the respect of other healthcare professionals, and the realization that kindness, preparation, and empathy could accomplish far more than office gossip ever could.